repeat after me your oath of office. I, Corazon Aquino, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and conscientiously fulfill my duties as President of the Philippines, preserve and defend its fundamental law, execute its just laws, do justice to every man, and consecrate myself to the service of the nation. So help me God.
Corazon Cory, Aquino, functioned as the symbol of the restoration of democracy and the overthrow of the Marcos dictatorship in 1986. The EDSA People Power, which installed Cory Aquino in the presidency, put the Philippines in the international spotlight for overthrowing a dictator through peaceful means. Cory was quickly a figure of the sad revolution as the widow of the slain Marcos oppositionist and former Senator Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. Cory was hoisted as the antithesis of the dictator. On September 18, 1986, 7 months after Cory became president, she went to the United States and spoke before the joint session of the U.S. Congress. Cory was welcomed with long applause as she took the podium and addressed the United States about her presidency and the challenges faced by the new republic. She began her speech with the story of her leaving the United States 3 years prior as a newly widowed wife of Ninoy Aquino.
Had left it also to lay to rest his restless dream of Philippine freedom. Today I have returned as the president of a free people. In burying Ninoy, a whole nation honored him.
She told of Ninoy's character, conviction, and resolve in opposing the authoritarianism of Marcos. She talked of the 3 times that they lost Ninoy, including his demise on August 21, 1983.
The government sought to break him by indignities and terror. They locked him up in a tiny, nearly airless cell in a military camp in the north. They stripped him naked and held the threat of a sudden midnight execution over his head. Ninoy held up manfully under all of it. I barely did as well. For 43 days, the authorities would not tell me what had happened to him. This was the first time my children and I felt we had lost him. When that didn't work, they put him on trial for subversion, murder, and a host of other crimes before a military commission. Ninoy challenged its authority and went on a fast.
To solidify his protest, Ninoy decided to do a hunger strike and fasted for 40 days. Cory treated this event as the second time that their family lost Ninoy.
He stopped only when it dawned on him that the government would keep his body alive after the fast had destroyed his brain. And so, with barely any life in his body, he called off the fast on the 40th day.
Ninoy's death was the third and the last time that Cory and their children lost Ninoy.
And then we lost him irrevocably and more painfully than in the past. The news came to us in Boston. It had to be after the 3 happiest years of our lives together. But his death was my country's resurrection and the courage and faith by which alone they could be free again. The dictator had called him a nobody, yet 2 million people threw aside their passivity and fear and escorted him to his grave.
Cory attributes the peaceful EDSA revolution to the martyrdom of Ninoy. She stated that the death of Ninoy sparked the revolution, and the responsibility of offering the democratic alternative had fallen on her shoulders. Cory's address introduced us to her democratic philosophy, which she claimed she also acquired from Ninoy.
I held fast to Ninoy's conviction that it must be by the ways of democracy. I held out for participation in the 1984 election the dictatorship called, even if I knew it would be rigged. I was warned by the lawyers of the opposition that I ran the grave risk of legitimizing the foregone results of elections that were clearly going to be fraudulent. But I was not fighting for lawyers, but for the people, in whose intelligence I had implicit faith.
Cory talked about her miraculous victory through the people's struggle and continued talking about her earliest initiatives as the president of a restored democracy. She stated that she intended to forge and draw reconciliation after a bloody and polarizing dictatorship. Cory emphasized the importance of the EDSA revolution in terms of being a limited revolution that respected the life and freedom of every Filipino. She also boasted of the restoration of a fully constitutional government whose constitution gave utmost respect to the Bill of Rights. After she reported to the U.S. Congress, Cory then presented her peace agenda with the existing communist insurgency, aggravated by the dictatorial and authoritarian measures of Ferdinand Marcos. Cory's peace agenda involved political initiatives and reintegration programs to persuade insurgents to leave the countryside and return to mainstream society and participate in the restoration of democracy. She invoked the path of peace because she believed that it was the path that a moral government must take. After that, Cory then turned to the controversial topic of the Philippines' foreign debt, amounting to $26 billion at the time of her speech. This debt has ballooned during the Marcos regime. Cory expressed her intention to honor those debts, despite mentioning that the people did not benefit from such obligation. She continued that while the country has experienced the calamities brought about by the corrupt dictatorship of Marcos, no commensurate assistance was yet extended to the Philippines. Cory then proceeded to enumerate the challenges of the Filipino people as they tried building the new democracy. These were the persisting communist insurgency and economic deterioration. Cory ended her speech by thanking the United States for serving as home to her family.
3 years ago, I said, "Thank you, America, for the haven from oppression and the home you gave Ninoy, myself, and our children, and for the 3 happiest years of our lives together." Today, I say, join us, America, as we build a new home for democracy, another haven for the oppressed, so it may stand as a shining testament of our two nations' commitment to freedom.